Hi, good morning. How are you, Alan?
Good morning, Zoe. I'm doing well.
Happy Self-Care Sunday, self-care every day. I'm excited to have you on today, talking to our groups about something very important and I think so many of us struggle with. But Alan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, what you do, what you coach, what your outcomes are for your clients, and all that good stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sounds good. Well, I live on Amelia. First of all, live over here on the East Coast, on Amelia Island, Florida, just north of Jacksonville, and with my wife we. My wife and I work with women and men who struggle with overweight and obesity, and it really came out of years of my personal struggle. I had tried every diet out there, all these things, and really my weight was holding me back in my business. It was holding me back in, a relationship. It was holding me back in so many ways. And when I saw the scale in 2017 that said 304 pounds, I really, mapped out a journey that took me 260 days to reach my ideal weight of 175 pounds. And it was never about a diet. And it was or an exercise plan. And so I really work with people on that. It's really rethinking the whole process, and it's fun. So didn't mean to just blab on, but that's what I do. So
yeah, no. And we're going to talk, we're obviously going to get a little sensitive today, but talk about something that's really a huge, pun intended, a huge issue. I know in my industry, just because we're always being a business owner, there's so many things about what we do that our lifestyle, we're caregivers, we're in hospitality. Sorry, my dog. And all these cards that are stacked up against us, right? And today what we want to talk about, because your objective, your goal, what is your tagline? Eradicating, what is it that you say?
Well, really changing the trajectory of obesity forever. And that's kind of a, not to make another pun, that's a big job, but it's possible. It is. So I really, in another thing that I say a lot is, just really unleashing human potential through weight loss.
Yeah. So tell us kind of a little bit your journey. I know you said that you had struggled with weight loss. What about, so we're talking to business owners, right? Let's talk specifically to business owners. And I think you said you were in sales insurance at the time. Is that right? Or
yeah, it actually, ironically, it came out of a business coaching call. Is where it started. And a couple of things. Yeah, I was in I've owned my own business for many years. I don't work well for other people, so I guess so I've always done something on my own. But I was in the life insurance industry, and had a team of agents, and I was in a coaching business that we were doing. And not that I was doing at the time, but I was part of a coaching program where people were, just trying to get some leverage to get their business increased. And about 10 days prior to that, I had stepped on the scale. I was 55 years old. I'd stepped on the scale on March 2nd, 2017, and I saw 304 pounds stare back at me. And I'm 5'11". I'm not 8 feet tall. And so 304 was a big number, and it got my attention. I realized that my wife, who I'd been married to at the time, was likely to call me her first husband, not because she was leaving me or I was leaving her, but because I'd likely be dead. I could do the statistics on likelihood of a guy living into his 60s that was 100 pounds overweight. But really what challenged me just as much as that was the fact that I knew my potential was being just squashed because of all the shame around obesity. And I was a six-figure earner. I had a big team of agents, but a coach asked me, he said, "What's holding you back in your business?" And my answer was not my leads. It wasn't my advertising, my presentation. It wasn't my, all the different things we think about and we work on every day in our businesses. My answer was my weight. And he was astonished because he didn't know me personally. He'd only met me a couple of times on the phone. And he said, "Well, how big are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm 298 pounds right now." And so that it led to me going on a 260-day journey that I actually publicly lost my weight. And was interesting is I got my life back, not just from the standpoint of, health. I mean, we talk about health all the time and weight, and people say, what industry are you in? And technically I'm in the health industry, but but it's really so much bigger than that. And when I work with clients, like, one of my clients the other day, he and I were having a conversation. He's a international commercial airline pilot. Okay. Now this, so what would your industry have with common with international commercial airline pilot? Well, think about the shame that somebody who struggles with overweight or obesity feels when they stand in front of somebody. Think about the shame that he felt walking on an airplane, because my picture of all captains of airliners was they all look like James Bond or Leonardo DiCaprio, and he stepped on with that. And so when he was dealing with that shame every day, and it cost him so much in his business, it cost him so much in those different areas. And, now he's under 200 pounds and he looks like a different person. And it's like, he says, it just changed everything. So we get hung up on, but we get hung up on, well, how do you do it? How do you do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we all want that magic quick formula, right? We don't want to do the work. Sure. We all want that magic pill. There's, in any aspect of our life. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you saying that. That's what led me. I was like thinking, oh yeah, how do we do that? Right?
And it really is. It is a whole change of mindset and perspective. And I ask this to people all the time. I say, if you're, and in fact, I'll give you an example of a client of mine that was 433 pounds. Okay. Very successful hotel consultant, works for a major hotel chain, travels all around, 433 pounds. Okay. And he'd never been on a diet in his life. He actually had an injury that caused him to just blow up really, really fast. And, I never tell my clients what to eat. And people say, well, how do you get their weight off? That well, of course you have to change. Of course you have to change, but we all know inherently what to do already. Mm-hmm. It's the doing it that's the challenge. And so I'll never forget in our first conversation that he and I had, he said, well, what am I going to eat? And I said, well, let me ask you this. If your wife and 2 daughters if their life was on the line, God forbid, and you had to lose 1 pound, just 1 pound over the next 7 days, could you do it? He said, well, yeah, I could do it. Okay. So he already knows. I said, so, and it was the funniest answer in the world. And I just, it was just, but it was so true. This guy is just such a warrior. He's amazing. But he told me this, and this was back in late October last year. And I said, so what would you do? He said, and he thought, and he was just as sincerely as any human could be. He said, I guess I could eat less. I said, there's a plan. Let's start there. Now, and I say that as almost a joke, but it's not. He already knew what to do. Now, did he go beyond just eating less? Did he, to drop he's right at 90 pounds down right now since October, and did he change? No, he became defiantly committed to his outcome. And it's really funny. I did a Facebook Live with him after about 30 days into my program. And I asked him, and it was fun. And I'm saying this just to give people an example of, you already know. You do already know. Now, do I have some processes and things I put through people through? Sure. Just, we all do. Do you have to change what you eat? Of course you do. But it was interesting when I asked him, I said, what would you tell somebody who doubts that you will weigh 185 pounds? And he has a time frame that he wants to do it in. And he looked, and he thought, he's very humble, just really humble guy. And he said, you tell him to watch me. And I said, game on. And at that point he was, I think, I don't know, he's still over 400, and now he's like around, I think he's 350. But it doesn't matter. It's so the thing that I say to people and that are watching this say, well, I can't get my weight off. I've got this issue, I've that issue. So what? I mean, there's a way. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I wanted to lead to is, and specifically, I know for our industry, I appreciate the story about the hotelier because I come from hospitality. I worked for hotels. you're working 12, 14-hour days for some reason. You feel like you're a doctor, like you're saving lives, and then you're eating on the run. I was around food and beverage all the time. I mean, I remember, and it's one thing when you're in your 20s and then you can't kind of keep up with that. But yeah, being in hospitality, being of service, most of my industry, we take care of people. We're around food. We create events. You're rushing your meal. It's not a very well thought out thing. You're eating what you can, granola bars along the way, not hydrating, like doing all the wrong things, not making it a priority, finding all these excuses is what you were talking. There's always going to be a reason why you can't.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. And it's what is it? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And the cards are stacked up against us. Then we work hard, and what you were saying, the mindset, and you're like, now I have to reward myself. And then we get invited to these parties that are the best of the best. The caterer saying, come see what our amazing food is all about. And we get treated better than most Hollywood red carpet attendees because they want us to invite those. So it's this constant cycle of feast and famine. I mean, pun not intended, that
no, I get it.
So hard for the client, and then you're trying to take care of yourself.
Well, yeah, and I understand it, but it's also like, I want a Ferrari, okay, I want a Bentley, I want a house on the Riviera, and all those things. And I say, well, I can't have that. Well, why not? I guess I could sell my home right now and buy a Ferrari, I guess, or whatever. But it's a decision, that we make. We make it in other areas of our life. And I know that's kind of a silly metaphor to use. I've never used that, but it is almost the ridiculous. I think I said this to you. I said this to somebody the other day. I mean, Dave Ramsey built a $250 million coaching business with one concept. And for those that don't know who it is, it's spend less than you make.
Right.
And so it's a whole mind warp with that. But the people in the hospitality industry is look at what it's costing you. Okay. Look at what it's costing you. What is it costing you? If you've ever walked into a room where you had to look at the chair and wonder if the chair would be comfortable because of your size. I've done that. If you've ever gotten in on an airplane and wondered if the seatbelt would go around and have to ask for the seatbelt extender. If you've wondered if somebody's going to take you seriously because of your weight, if you stop short, and I'll give you an example with my wife. My wife, Angie, she didn't have the amount of weight to lose that I did. But when I went on my journey 3 days into it, she was furious what I was doing. And, she was really, we do everything together. And so she knew she would go on a public weight loss journey. She was angry about it, about what I was doing. She wanted me to get my weight off, but it was really just funny to watch 3 days into my journey that I went on. And she said, you see, since our fourth child was born, Angie and I have been married 35 years now. At the time it was 31. And since our fourth child was born, Angie had let her weight slip up a little bit. Okay. And then a little bit more and a little bit more. And she stopped allowing nurses and doctors to weigh her because there was no reason. When she go in for a checkup, and she didn't have any medical issues. She wasn't on any meds for her weight. She could go in that story, but she had let herself get a little bit larger than she thought. And she didn't believe anybody knew. Okay. Because that was me. We all don't think anybody knows. And I'm a loving husband who wants to keep my wife happy, just like, happy wife, happy life, if you ever heard the concept. So I didn't get into a big conversation about it with her. And I'm using this as an example to people because I want you to realize people know. Don't, and it doesn't mean, and it's no shame. It's not to shame you, but people know. You can't hide it with a black suit. You can't hide it with it's there. And so she said to me, I would never, publicly lose weight. I said, okay. I said, I can tell you what you weigh within 10 pounds. And she said, you cannot. And I hadn't seen her scale in years. I had no idea, but we all have this intuitive. She said, there's no way you can guess my weight. I said, I can get you in 10 pounds. I guessed her within 2 pounds. Okay. She had weighed because she knew I was weighing, and she was 188 pounds at the time. I guess her 186 was a really polite way to do it as a husband. And she went on a journey, and it was interesting. She flipped the switch that she decided to flip. She dropped 63 pounds in 190 days. Okay. With diets that she'd failed on, because you do have to change, because in people, and we all are looking, and I don't mean to get so hung up on this piece of it, but I want everybody to realize, does she feel better walking into a room with people and speaking? Does she feel better in a situation? Does she physically feel better? Well, of course you do, but it's beyond that. It's so far beyond that. And so what I would say to anybody who's watching this, who is in a struggle, is it's a decision. It's a decision. It's not a diet. And that sounds, well, that's cold. And well, no, it's really not. In what I've never told anybody what their ideal weight should be. Mm-hmm. Okay. People say, well, what should I weigh? Well, you want me to tell you the weight that I believe is your ideal weight is the weight that you feel free at. The weight that it's no longer a question mark in the back of your head when you're walking into that banquet room and the bride's standing there, or whoever. I mean, the different, people that I don't know who all you deal with, but somebody's standing there and you've got your dream client standing in front of you. You've got your dream client. You got one shot at that dream client, or you're going to miss them. Okay. And you walk into that room and there is no thought about weight going through your head. That's when you're at your ideal weight. And if you're anything but that, you need to make a plan.
Yeah. And it leads, as you were talking, I was thinking about, I appreciate the story about Angie, about your wife, because you start telling yourself the story. Oh, it's not that bad. You stop looking at pictures of yourself. You don't look in the mirror as much. You don't get on the scale because numbers don't lie. And you are just telling yourself the story of, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, I can lose the weight in a couple weeks. Oh, I just had a really rough week this week. I do deserve, I don't know. And then our job is also very, very physical, right? What we do, the production, the schlepping, all that stuff, which makes it, and we're on our feet a good 12, 14 hours for events leading up to it. The ticker tape starts, like all these reasons stack up for us to not put ourselves first and not make the conscious decision. Because when you're not making that decision, when you're in this mode of, it's fine, I got it under control. Do you really? Are you just burying it under all these other things, all these other reasons?
Well, it's just like, and that's such a great point. And it's just like if you're in your business. I mean, if your business is underwater and you haven't made a profit in the last 10 years, I mean, you're the expert on how to get people into that, out of that problem, how to get the profitable in their business related around that. But it's the same thing. I mean, are you bearing it? How long, at what point does it cost you that client? At what point does it cost you that conversation? You want to have a difficult conversation with an employee, okay? But they're kind of making fun of you about your weight. You're thinking, whether they are or not, it doesn't matter. If you think that, then it's reality. And so if you're not free of this worry around weight, it's, the first thing I tell people is quit lying to yourself. That's the first thing. Quit lying to yourself. Number one, get on the friggin' scale. I mean, it's like I avoided it like crazy at 300 when I was like 290 something. If I'd have been 299.8 pounds that day, nothing would have changed. But the fact I was 304, it was like, oh my gosh. In fact, what was so funny about it, if somebody looks at my website, they'll see a 304 pound scale. That was the scale the morning of March 2nd when I saw that. And it wasn't that I was thinking that, oh, I'm going to become a weight loss coach and I'm going to be doing all this. I didn't have this diabolical plan. What happened was I stood on that scale and I looked down and I said, oh my gosh, I've been in the life insurance business for over a decade. I'd never met a man, I was 55, I'd never met a man 65 years old that had 100 pounds to lose. Now, they're probably out there, but they're few and far between. And you know why they're few and far between, right? Because they're dead. They're dead. They're gone. I mean, it's the truth. Yeah, they're gone. They're the guy that when I walked into homes and I dealt with senior citizens a lot, over 65. Now, the obese ladies, they were sick. They lived longer, but they had 21 different medications that they were on, okay? And so, but I walked in, they would say, I say, who's that guy? That was my first husband. He died of a heart attack, stroke, cancer, whatever. It's something obesity related, type 2 diabetes, on and on and on. And I realized that, but I also realized that it was a disaster. And I literally grabbed my cell phone, which we always have our cell phone near us, no matter what part of the house we're in. And I snapped a picture of that scale. I said, I'm never going to see that again.
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't about my health really. I mean, it was and wasn't. It was about all this potential that was going to be locked up in me that was going to be just wasted if I didn't get my head off.
That's 100% true, and I think that's really the key to our conversation today, because it holds you back. Sure, you can hide it, you can not look at the scale, you can not look at the mirror, but the things that are blatantly apparent, you're not excited about getting out of bed. You have a hard time sleeping. You don't have the energy for the clients. You're constantly, your brain is going into this mode of, I got to do this, I got to do that, I'm never going to be good enough. And it portrays, it showcases, and it shows up in your business. You're attracting the wrong clients. You're not doing 110% because you only have energy for 40%. And then you start telling yourself, oh, but everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's it's the clients, they're cheap, or it's, and you start, and so it starts bleeding into your beliefs of everyone else is doing it in my industry. All these other people are having fun at these parties, or, eating this great food, or not exercising, whatever the case is. But it goes into just your full potential in every single thing, whether it's business, whether it's your family, your kids. I'm not married, but it's like, just even walking my dog, I would do it less and less, right? Because I didn't have the energy. So now my dog's getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I mean, it affects it all, and I think about, I think about, and you've got my mind running with different clients, and one of my clients who literally is a rocket scientist, and who's she's got all these degrees, all this stuff. She actually is certified in a ton of nutrition and everything, but she was struggling with her own weight and had to get, rethought. And I just encourage people to look at what is the solution rather than looking at what didn't work, and ask yourself, and just get brutally honest with yourself and say, do I really not know what to do? Or is it I'm just not doing it? And what's it costing you? And just start making a list of what it cost you. Is it cost you? Maybe it's costing me, physically, that's the obvious stuff. Maybe it's costing me here. And then, but also give yourself some grace too. Okay. Give yourself some grace and say, listen, this is going to take a minute to get done. This is not, it's like when I ask a client, how quickly would you like to get there? And if they answer anything other than right now, I know they're not telling me the truth. Now, right now doesn't work. I mean, obviously that's the truth, but it's, give yourself grace. It's going to take a while. You don't have to do crazy stuff. You don't have to go on these crash things and drop 492 pounds in 13 minutes or whatever. I'm throwing crazy stuff out there, but at the end of the day, what one man or woman can do, another man or woman can do. Okay. And I think about, a client of mine who he's in the realm of, I'll tell you, his name is Matt McWilliams. He's known as the affiliate guy. And Matt, when I started working with him, before I even said it to him, he said, my weight's just holding me back. And he's having, I believe, arguably the best year he's ever had in his business, the best year. Now, he was doing really well when I got to him, okay, when we connected. But in my program, he dropped 93 pounds and put on 30 pounds of muscle. I didn't tell him what exercise to do. I didn't tell him one food to eat, but we just worked on the mindset, the thought process and all the things that you've got to do. And the stick-to-itiveness is really the key. Just so I'll tell people, that's magical right there. But he landed a life-changing client. He landed an industry icon as a client. And he told me recently, we were just doing catch up. And then he says, Alan, he said, I would have never. He said the 290-pound Matt would have never gotten there.
Yeah.
He said it wouldn't even, because you sit there. And I remember him telling me he was literally sitting at a table. And this has been told publicly, so I'm not sharing the confidential stuff. But for our first conversation, if anybody knows who Michael Hyatt is, Michael Hyatt's followed by millions of people. Amy Porterfield's followed by millions of people. And Jeff Walker's followed by millions of people. Okay. Now he's the fourth seat at the table. and he weighs 290 pounds or 286, whatever it was, pounds, and he's busting out of his clothes. You don't think he felt self-conscious with all those fit people?
Yeah, I'm like remembering, especially now after COVID, when people were saying the COVID-20, and it's like, no, it can be more, but just be uncomfortable physically, and you're squirming in your seat, and you're not even paying attention to what someone's saying because you're like, oh, my button, or oh, my pants, or I'm there. I'm hearing exactly what you're saying.
It takes people, but also give yourself grace. I said, tell yourself the truth. Okay, tell yourself the truth. Get on the freaking scale. It's not the enemy. It's data. Do you teach your clients that they've got to track their data?
It's the one that they don't want to do. They're like, I don't want to do SMART goals. I don't want to look at my financials. I'm like, if we don't look at your financials, we're never going to get to your goal.
If you don't know where you are, you got to know where you are.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple stuff, but give yourself some grace. Figure out, why is it so important to you? Now, and if somebody, I don't fat shame people. I don't tell people that, that are obese. I mean, I want everybody to be healthy, but my clients have a lot of different goals. I mean, but if you've got 100 pounds to lose, if you've got 50 pounds to lose, it's going to take a minute. Okay. And a minute in the South, that's how we say in the South that it's going to take a while. Okay. It's going to take a minute to get that done. Okay. Literally, it's going to take a while. Give yourself some grace. But understand that you've got to have accurate data going into your equation. Okay, everything doesn't work for everybody. I mean, my clients are on a myriad of different diets. They're on a myriad of different weight loss things. But the thing that they all they all learn is they all learn how to build the I will not quit. One of my in Angie and I work with ladies together, and one of our ladies, she's she says over and over, I will not quit. I will not quit. I will not quit. I mean, she just goes over and over, and it's inspiring to me. I mean, it is. I'm like, dang, game on. And also understand this. How now you're very successful in your industry. You know how to get it done, right, Zoe?
Right.
Okay. I mean, you do. You got it dialed in. Okay. So when it comes to your industry, you're the expert. You know what to do. Clearly, you get results for people like crazy. You do all this stuff. At what point have you stopped keeping track of your data?
Not once.
Not what you can't. I mean, because there's only two directions you get to go in life. You either are sinking, going the wrong direction. Like in weight loss, in my industry, it's the scale's going up, or you are going towards a goal. So, it's like one of my clients, when he reaches ideal weight, he's a stay-at-home dad. So people who say you can't lose weight staying at home, that's BS. I just don't buy it. He's 5'6", lost 95 pounds as a stay-at-home dad, taking his kids to all pouring Cheerios or whatever he was pouring for his kids, but he made a decision. And now he's decided he wants to be on American Ninja Warrior. I didn't tell him to do that. Now he's got a ways to go, but he's figured out, he's developing a plan for it. He's doing all these things. Will he get there? Yeah, probably will. I mean, he just wants to at least be able to do it. So when people look at this process, figure out why you want to do it to start with. I mean, that's so corny. Well, why? Well, why do you want to have a business like you're working with people? Okay. Right. Do you want to, is it going to really suck when you show your clients how to make, $10 million a year? And I don't know if you do that, but I'm just throwing it out there. They're making $10 million a year in their business. They got a thriving business. Won't it really stink if they're that lady or man who is morbidly obese and they're on blood pressure medicine, that they've got type 2 diabetes, they've got all these myriad of issues? I mean, does that really even go together? Does that make sense? I mean, it's going to steal their joy.
100%, because it feeds into, again, all this other mental stuff. And, a couple things that I wanted to touch on that you said, because my new word has been limitless. And as you're seeing yourself reach your goals, you become limitless. So the gentleman that you were talking about, to have this goal that he's going to be on American Ninja, what is it?
American Ninja Warrior. It's a TV show, and and by the way, he's got 4 past contestants working with him right now, which is crazy. He reached out, and there's always a way.
you become limitless. And so, you know, here, let's share the big secret, I think, Alan. And again, I'm not the coach here for weight loss, but I think we're going to give the key, the big secret to everyone is that you can't keep focusing on all the things you have to give up, because that's really what holds people back. Oh, I'm not going to be able to drink. Oh, I'm not going to be able to go to parties. Oh, I'm not going to be able to eat the delicious food from the caterer. Like, you know, same thing in business. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to work all these hours. Oh, I'm going to have to look at my finances. It's like, what are you focusing on? Because why don't you focus on what you want to win, how you win?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and I've got just such a great story. One of my clients, this happened right after Easter, whenever Easter was. And this guy, he lives in the Midwest, and he'd been working with me for about a couple of weeks. And we were doing a one-to-one, call that I had scheduled with him. It was the day after Easter, and he said, we get on for first thing he says to me, and he's a little bit Southern like I am, and he says, "You know what I had for breakfast this morning?" I said, "No, and I never, but I don't have a preference over what he has for breakfast. I have a preference over what he wants, where he wants to get to, how he's going to get there." He said, "I had apple pie." I said, "You did, good for you." And he said, and he said, and he told me something that was really enlightening to me. And this guy has lost, he had about 50 pounds to lose, about halfway there. Okay. He's doing it at his pace, which is perfect. That's what I want to do it. But he said, "Alan, if you'd have told me what to eat," he said, "I would have ran from you like a bad habit." He said, but it was interesting. He said, "I figured out," he said, all I did was show him what he already knew how to do, if that makes sense. But he said, "I figured it out. He said, "I knew on Easter, if I ate that apple pie, that I would gain weight. I figured it out." He said, but I also knew that if I saved me a piece this morning, that I could figure it out into my day and have it. You can still have stuff, guys. It's not like I discovered on my personal journey that wheat and I don't agree. It's not about the weight thing. It makes me feel lousy. Do I still have wheat sometimes? Heck yeah. It doesn't mean you're never going to have it again, but are you willing to do what, it's that old saying, are you willing to do what other people want so you can have what other people won't have? And it's kind of corny, but it's the truth. If I told you, Zoe, that I was going to give you 20 grand to go on a date, you've got to use some of that money for a vacation. Okay. And you could use all of it and buy, I don't know what you get for 20 grand vacation, but I imagine you get a pretty nice one. Okay. Maybe go to Hawaii or go around the world cruise.
Going on a safari in Africa.
There you go. Okay. But I told you can do anything you want with the leftover part, but you've got to spend it on that. You would make a decision. You say, well, how bad do I want the safari, or do I want maybe to spend $5,000 or $2,000 and go on a little short vacation, and then maybe buy a car or upgrade or do, so you would budget it out. Hello. That's what we're doing every day.
You make decisions based on the goal versus focusing on all the issues of like, oh, I have to do this. Oh, I'm going to have to go do burpees. I went through my weight loss journey and it was like, I remember burpees. I love burpees. I would just start saying it. I freaking love burpees. And I became the burpee queen just because I changed my mindset about it. Because I wasn't like, oh gosh, one more burpee. Well, who cares, right? So it's the same thing. And I love when you said, to go public on it. And I think that's what it means, is you have to just make a statement and say, this is what I'm doing. This is my goal. And whatever it takes. Because if you start thinking about all the little things you have to do, nobody's going to do it. You just have to think about adopting a lifestyle that's going to get you to that freedom of being limitless, right? Well,
and you said something. You said something there, lifestyle, and this is the one that is a pet peeve of mine too. But you're right. You adopt it over time. I agree with you 100%. But it's so funny. How many times people say, "Well, that way, losing weight that way is not sustainable. I can't do that. That's not sustainable." Okay. I actually had a lady that was, I was considering taking as a client, and I ended up not even, because I don't offer my program to everybody. I'm not for everybody, but she was just saying something that she was thinking of trying was not sustainable. And I said, "What'd you have for lunch today?" And she said, "Well, I went through the Taco Bell drive-thru, and she had, this massive lunch at Taco Bell. Taco Bell's known for its healthy food, that, right? I mean, all the fried stuff and everything, they're really known. And I don't have a problem with Taco Bell if that's what she wants. And I said, and she didn't tell me she had dessert, but I said, what'd you have for dessert? Because I knew she did. And she said, well, I had a, extra large, those king size pack of Kit Kats. I said, okay. And I'm thinking, so that's sustainable. So we look for this magic pill that we can stick to for the rest of our life, forever and ever. Amen. It doesn't work that way, guys. What you do is you start where you are. Okay. You learn as you go. And you also realize that there is a birthday. It's like my wife and I in our weight loss journey. We made a decision, some really tough decisions in it. And eating birthday cake wasn't on the menu, and we both had birthdays during that time. So guess what? My wife loves lobster tail. Okay, so we started a tradition that we still do now is we do broiled lobster tail with a birthday candle in it as we blow out. We still do that. And so there's other ways to do stuff and have fun. It doesn't mean you're never going to have that thing again, that ribeye steak or whatever it is that you want and that you decide to do, but you can't keep having it all every day. It's like my daughter's coming back from a trip, and I think she had it all with her checking account, I noticed. So she had a great time and everything. But you can do that for a short period of time, but you can't continue to just do things over and over. And then you wake up that next day and it keeps putting off. And the biggest lie that we tell, that the biggest lie, and the thing that's gotten, there's 650 million people in the world that are obese. More than 1 million people a month are becoming obese every day. Okay, worldwide. And the way that works is I'll do this tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take care of this tomorrow. No, today's today. I mean, it just is. And, so.
Today is the day. Seize the day. The outcomes that, it's not about that. This is what gets my goat. It's not about what you're giving up. It's what literally you're gaining. Once again, what you're gaining in so much more that is not even tangible. You don't see it. You're going to get there, things that you never even imagined to be possible. Or again, American Ninja Warrior, like, was that even in the scope of things? Like, just what a great, the dream continues. That's the thing. The dream. Yeah. Instead of tomorrow, you're like, tomorrow,
Yeah, and you also learn what works. It's like the guy I told you about, Matt, who's the Philip guy that he's down 93 pounds. And he says, you know what I did? I did this about a month ago. He took his kids somewhere in Tennessee. He lives in Indiana. And he said, went to Paula Deen's. He said, had 4 pieces of fried chicken at Paula Deen's. I mean, but he knows his body now. He's an expert on him. I said, good for you. I mean, he doesn't do it every day. He had ice cream. He had all these different things because he's there. He said, how much I gained? How much my skill changed when I got back? I said, how much? He said, half a pound. Because he knows what he can do. Now, does he eat 4 pieces of fried chicken? He probably hadn't had 4 pieces of fried chicken a year, but he still, for those special occasions, he'll have it because he knows that sometimes he wants that. He knows there is tomorrow. It's not about deprivation. It's about decision.
It's not all or nothing.
That's right.
All. Having it all, but in a very conscientious, smart, and productive way. I mean, that's the bottom line. And doing it yourself, obviously, very, very difficult. Most people watching, I'm sure most people here have had these thoughts, have tried to do it on their own. They say it doesn't work. That's why you make the excuses and you think tomorrow. And you guys, just like transforming your business, transforming your life, you cannot do it by yourself, period. That is the truth. So you can find out more about Alan. You can go to transformmyfuture.com. Any last words, Alan? It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
No, thanks for having me here. Just, understand this, be encouraged. If you woke up this morning and you ate everything, including the kitchen sink last night, be encouraged that there is always a way. Stop lying to yourself, just do what's necessary and look at what it could cost you. And, if I can help, definitely reach out, but it's so fun being here, Zoe. I know your industry does a lot and, you're doing amazing work. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. But, we want to take the stress out. And this is the first place to start, you guys. Our industry is so stressful. It has to start with you, period. you.
Yep.
So this is a great way to do it. Thank you so much, Alan. Happy Self-Care Sunday, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ciao.